There is a moment, deep in the quiet hours of the night, when the mind begins to slip beyond the borders of waking life. A moment when thoughts loosen, memories shimmer, and the familiar architecture of reality gently dissolves. In this fragile transition, the brain does something extraordinary. It creates an entire world, one born not of sight or touch, but of pure imagination. Inside this hidden realm, time bends. Identity drifts. Logic softens into fluid, living scenes that unfold without effort. Dreams become the language of a mind that is finally free from the weight of consciousness. A mind that speaks in symbols, emotions, fragments of memory, and impossible landscapes. Tonight, we will step into that world, a world where the brain rewires itself in the dark, where reality is stitched together from sparks of electrical fire, and where every dream, no matter how strange, carries a quiet purpose. Welcome to the realm that awakens only when the mind sleeps. As you drift gently towards sleep, there comes a delicate moment so subtle, so fragile, that most people never notice it happening. A moment when awareness begins to slip from the sharp, structured light of waking life into the softer, fluid glow of the inner world. It begins with small things: a loosening of thought, a softening of attention, a gentle blurring of the boundary between what is real and what is remembered. The mind starts to release its tight grip on the day, letting thoughts drift like slow-moving clouds across a twilight sky. Within your brain, networks that were busy interpreting the outside world gradually fall quiet. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, planning, and self-control, dims like a lantern placed behind frosted glass. At the same time, deeper regions begin to stir. The limbic system, the keeper of emotion and memory, awakens softly. It is as though two worlds are trading places, the external world fading, the internal world rising. This transition is the threshold where dreams begin to gather like mist forming on cool air. As sensory input decreases, the brain no longer anchors itself to physical reality. Sounds feel distant. The sense of your body becomes lighter, more abstract, as though it was slowly dissolving into the mattress beneath you. Without the constant flow of external information, the mind turns inward, searching for patterns within itself. Fragmented memories surface, blending with imagination. Emotions stretch into colors and shapes. Ideas drift without direction. And in this quiet swirl, the first seeds of dreaming take root. Slow waves ripple through the brain, broad, unhurried pulses that calm the mind into rhythmic stillness. Each wave quiets a little more of the conscious world, smoothing the sharpness of thought into long, drifting impressions. Neural pathways that once kept your attention focused now relax, allowing distant regions to connect in unexpected ways. This loosened structure is what gives dreams their strange, fluid logic, where places shift, identities blur, and time flows in ways that waking life never permits. And as this transition deepens, a soft darkness fills the mind, not the absence of light, but the presence of something gentler, quieter. A darkness where imagination breathes more freely, where memories float without weight, where the mind begins to weave its own version of reality. This is the doorway to dreams, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, but suspended in a timeless moment where consciousness drifts, unbound and unguarded. Now, sinking deeper, you feel this doorway widening, You feel yourself passing through the threshold, leaving behind the structured clarity of day and stepping into the vast, fluid landscape of the sleeping mind. Here, in this unfolding quiet, the journey into dreams truly begins. As you drift further from the waking world, the brain begins a quiet act of creation. No longer occupied with interpreting external signals, it turns inward, gathering fragments of memory, emotion, and imagination. At first, these fragments appear faint, fleeting images, disjointed sensations, half-formed thoughts. But slowly, gently, they begin to gather substance, like fog thickening into visible shape. This is the earliest stage of dreaming, where the mind starts weaving the raw materials of inner experience into delicate threads of meaning. The thalamus, once a vigilant gatekeeper of sensory information, now lowers its guard. It allows fewer signals from the outside world to reach your awareness, narrowing the mind's attention until only the quiet hum of internal activity remains. Without the constant pull of reality anchoring your perception, memories float upward more freely. They blend with imagination in ways that waking logic would never permit. A place you once visited merges with a person you barely remember. A sound becomes a color. A feeling takes the shape of a landscape. Meanwhile, the limbic system awakens with a soft glow. Emotions, no longer constrained by conscious reasoning, rise to the surface with greater clarity. They are not intense or overwhelming. Instead, they drift gently through the mind like warm currents beneath still water. These emotional traces give dreams their tone, sometimes mysterious, sometimes soothing, sometimes strange. They are the silent music guiding the unfolding story of the night. As neural networks shift into new patterns, the brain begins to explore without boundaries. Regions that rarely interact during wakefulness now connect in unexpected ways, allowing creativity to flourish. This sudden freedom gives rise to images that are at once familiar and impossible. You might see a childhood home suspended in the sky, or hear a voice that belongs to no one you know. The mind does not question these impossibilities. It accepts them with effortless trust, weaving them into the tapestry of the dream. All of this unfolds in silence, a silence not of emptiness, but of deep concentration. The brain is building a world, piece by piece, from the softest elements of memory and emotion. And as these elements coalesce, you feel yourself slipping into that world more fully, as though the boundary between your thoughts and your surroundings has melted completely. You are no longer observing the dream forming, you are stepping into it. Now, drifting deeper, the internal landscape grows richer, more vivid, more coherent. The brain is ready to open the door fully, inviting you into the unfolding world it has created. And with each slow breath, you move closer to the heart of the dream. As you drift deeper into the internal world the mind is shaping, something remarkable begins to happen. The dream gains weight, not physical weight, but perceptual gravity. Scenes that began as faint impressions grow sharp. Sounds that once felt distant become immersive. Emotions stir with a clarity that rivals waking life. The brain, cut off from external inputs, begins to simulate reality with its own internal signals so convincingly that your awareness cannot tell the difference. This illusion of reality is not accidental. The visual cortex awakens again, but now it is responding not to light entering the eyes, but to imagery generated from within. Neural pathways fire in patterns that mimic the experience of seeing, hearing, and moving through space. To the dreaming mind, these internal signals feel identical to sensory input. And because the prefrontal cortex, the voice of skepticism, is quieted, you do not question what unfolds. You accept the dream's logic effortlessly, allowing its world to become your world. Simultaneously, the hippocampus begins to rearrange memories, stitching unrelated fragments together with seamless fluidity. A hallway from your childhood might open into a place you visited yesterday. A face you barely recall might speak with the voice of a friend. The brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It simply pulls from whatever material is most accessible, reshaping it to fit the unfolding dream. This blending creates a world that is familiar yet surreal, coherent yet impossible. Emotion shapes these worlds just as strongly as memory. In the dream state, feelings are amplified not in intensity, but in clarity. Joy, curiosity, nostalgia, fear. Each emotion becomes a tint in the dream's atmosphere, coloring the entire landscape. The environment responds to emotion, shifting in ways that are subtle yet profound. A quiet sadness might turn the dream dim and echoing. A sense of wonder might fill it with impossible light. The world of dreams is a canvas for the inner self, painting without constraints. As the simulation deepens, your awareness steps fully inside it. You begin to move through the dream as though it were physically real, feeling its textures not with your skin, but with your presence. Gravity, distance, movement, they operate according to the dream's rules, and you adapt without hesitation. This seamless acceptance is what makes dreams so immersive. The conscious mind, softened and dissolved, no longer resists the illusion. Now, drifting deeper, the dream thickens around you, becoming not just a world you witness, but a world you inhabit. The waking world fades completely, replaced by a reality shaped entirely by your own mind. And in this quiet transition, you surrender to the flow of the dream, allowing it to carry you further into the depths of night. As you drift deeper into the dream's unfolding world, the first thing you may notice is how effortlessly the impossible becomes natural. Walls stretch into horizons. Objects melt into new shapes. You find yourself moving between places without ever crossing the distance between them, and yet none of this feels strange. In the dream state, the mind abandons the rigid structure of waking logic and enters a fluid, shifting mode of thinking, one where possibility expands far beyond the limits of the physical world. This shift begins with the quieting of the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational judgment, planning, and reality testing. In wakefulness, it acts as a strict guardian, constantly monitoring the coherence of your perceptions. But during dreaming, its influence fades into a soft hum. Without this inner critic, the mind no longer asks whether something makes sense. Instead, it accepts each unfolding moment as true, allowing the dream's narrative to flow freely without interruption. Meanwhile, the associative networks of the brain become unusually active. Neurons that rarely fire together during the day now synchronize in unexpected patterns. This creates connections between ideas, images, and memories that would normally never interact. A childhood memory might blend with a recent concern. A symbol from a movie might merge with a sensation from your body. These unlikely combinations give dreams their surreal quality, Yet because the mind is no longer evaluating them, they feel natural, inevitable. Spatial awareness also shifts. The parietal lobes, which help define the body's position in space, loosen their grip. As a result, distances, directions, and proportions become malleable. A single room may expand into an entire landscape. A familiar hallway might fold into itself like a loop. You might even find yourself floating or moving without effort, as though gravity is merely a suggestion rather than a rule. The dream becomes a world built from perception rather than physics. Emotion acts as the hidden architect behind this shifting reality. In dreams, emotions do not simply color experience, they shape it. Fear might twist the scenery into narrow, shadowed corridors. Peace might open vast, luminous spaces. Curiosity may propel you through scenes that evolve simply because you are looking for what comes next. The dream responds to you, forming itself around your internal state as fluidly as ink spreading through water. Now, as each rule of waking life melts away, you feel the dream becoming even more expansive, an open field where imagination and memory blend into something entirely your own. You drift effortlessly through its shifting structures, unbothered by the absence of logic, comforted by the softness of a world that does not need to make sense. And as this surreal terrain deepens around you, you move further into the quiet heart of the dreaming mind. As you drift deeper into the dream's gentle current, you begin to sense a soft underlayer beneath the shifting imagery, an emotional tide moving quietly through the mind. Dreams are not random landscapes. They are emotional laboratories where the brain processes feelings too delicate, too complex, or too unfinished for waking life. Here, in the tranquil darkness of sleep, the mind unfolds its emotional threads, smoothing them with a patience that daytime rarely allows. During this nocturnal work, the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, glows with heightened activity. Fears, longings, unresolved tensions, and quiet hopes stir beneath the surface, rising not as overwhelming waves, but as symbolic scenes woven into the dream. A conversation you avoided might reappear in a new form. A worry becomes a shifting landscape. A forgotten joy returns as a person, a place, a light. The dream does not force you to confront these emotions. Instead, it gives them space to drift, soften, and transform. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex remains hushed, allowing emotions to unfold without rigid judgment. In waking life, your conscious mind often tries to categorize feelings acceptable or not, logical or irrational. But in the dream state, these boundaries dissolve. Emotion is free to express itself without fear of scrutiny. This freedom creates a kind of internal healing, a subtle rebalancing that leaves the mind lighter, clearer, more open upon waking. As the emotional currents move through the dreaming brain, the hippocampus quietly organizes memories, linking them with the feelings they carry. This is why a dream can suddenly place you in a childhood home or beside someone you haven't seen in years. The brain is not indulging in nostalgia. It is repairing, reshaping, and restoring the emotional texture of your life. Each dream becomes a small act of integration, stitching together past and present in a way that brings coherence to your inner world. And through all of this, the dream environment shifts in harmony with emotion, scenery changing colors, light softening, shapes bending. the world of the dream responds to the heart with extraordinary sensitivity. A peaceful memory may spread like warm light across the landscape. A lingering worry might dissolve into mist. Even fear, when allowed to move freely, often transforms into something softer, like a shadow fading at dawn. In this way, dreams serve not as escapes, but as gentle guides through the emotional terrain of the self. Now, drifting even deeper, you can feel this emotional processing continuing in the background, quiet, steady, effortless. The images around you shift like currents in deep water, carrying your feelings toward calmer shores. You do not need to direct the process. You need only float, letting the dream do the work it was designed to do as the night carries you further into its soft, healing depths. As you drift deeper into the dream's unfolding tapestry, a subtle yet extraordinary process begins beneath the surface of your awareness. The brain, freed from the noise of the external world, starts to rebuild its internal model of reality. Every day, you gather countless impressions, sounds, sights, emotions, conversations, expectations. Many of them remain unresolved, unexamined, unintegrated. But in the stillness of sleep, the mind turns inward and begins to weave these scattered threads into a coherent whole. The cerebral cortex, particularly the regions responsible for sensory interpretation, hum in patterns that resemble wakefulness, yet operate with more creativity and freedom. Deprived of real sensory input, they generate their own simulations, testing, refining, and reorganizing the brain's understanding of the world. A room may appear with impossible proportions. A familiar street may shift into an unfamiliar city. These distortions are not errors. They are experiments, gentle recalibrations meant to keep your internal model flexible and adaptive. Meanwhile, the hippocampus works tirelessly, sorting through memories from the day. Some are reinforced and stored long-term, while others gradually fade. Dreams are the visible byproduct of this invisible sorting. A face you noticed briefly, a sentence you overheard, a feeling you didn't fully process, these fragments drift through the dream as the brain decides what to keep and what to release. In this way, dreams are not only stories but also filters, clearing space within the mind for new experiences. The default mode network active during daydreaming and introspection also plays a key role. During dreaming, it becomes untethered from the constraints of conscious thought, allowing ideas to connect in novel ways. This is why dreams often deliver insights that feel surprising or creative. The brain is rehearsing possibilities, exploring alternate interpretations, and expanding the range of ways you can understand your own life. Even the strangest dreams carry hints of this internal reorganization. All the while, the dream landscape responds to these processes with fluid sensitivity. As memories are tested and refined, the scenery around you shifts. Walls stretch or reshape. Characters appear and dissolve. Emotional tones change like drifting light. The dream is not static. It is a mirror of the mind in motion, reflecting the silent work happening in the depths of your neural networks. Now, as you sink further into this inner reconstruction, you may feel a sense of gentle detachment, a soft floating sensation, as though you are drifting through the workshop of your own mind. You are not directing the process. You are simply witnessing it as it unfolds. The brain is recalibrating, reorganizing, renewing itself. And all you need to do is drift, letting the quiet machinery of the night carry you deeper into its restorative embrace. As you drift even deeper into the dream's unfolding world, an important transformation begins to settle over your awareness, the gentle withdrawal of the conscious mind. This withdrawal is not abrupt. It is a slow dimming, like a lantern whose flame softens until its glow becomes part of the darkness. In this softened state, the brain enters a protective mode, one designed to shield the deeper processes of sleep from the disruptive interference of conscious thought. You are still present, still drifting, but the part of you that questions, evaluates, or hesitates has quietly stepped aside. The prefrontal cortex, which governs self-awareness and logical control, retreats into near silence. This silence is not a shutdown but a sanctuary, a protective curtain that allows the brain's restorative functions to unfold undisturbed. Without the constant commentary of conscious thought, the mind can reorganize, recover, and rebuild itself with extraordinary efficiency. It is in this darkened mental space that dreams breathe most freely, shaping and reshaping the inner world with effortless fluidity. Meanwhile, the sensory systems continue to quiet. External sounds are filtered into faint, distant impressions. The sense of touch becomes diffuse, less anchored to the physical body. Vision becomes entirely symbolic, composed from memory rather than light. This sensory isolation creates a safe internal chamber where the brain can process experiences without interference. It is as though the mind closes its doors gently, allowing only the softest echoes of the outside world to reach you. And yet, within this isolation, the brain is far from empty. Beneath the veil of lowered consciousness, neural activity surges in rhythmic waves. There is measurement, recalibration, emotional digestion, and memory sorting all happening silently beneath the surface. Dreams act as the mind's interface with these processes, translating complex internal operations into imagery, movement, symbols, and shifting scenes. Even when the content feels strange, the underlying purpose is one of protection and renewal. This protective withdrawal also explains why dreams often feel immersive yet distant, vivid yet untouchable. You experience them fully, but without the sharp edges of waking life. There is no urgency, no need to act, no risk of consequence. The dreaming mind constructs a world where you can feel deeply but remain safe, where you can explore without danger, where the self can dissolve and reform without fear. It is a controlled vulnerability, one the brain has evolved to allow healing in the deepest sense. Now, as the protective darkness settles more warmly around you, you feel yourself drifting further from the bright edges of conscious awareness. You are floating in a quiet chamber designed for restoration, held gently by the mind's ancient instinct for self-preservation. You do not need to think, you do not need to solve. All you need to do is drift, as the night carries you deeper into the quiet sanctum of dreams. As you drift deeper into the dream's enveloping darkness, a curious stillness settles over your physical body. Limbs grow heavy, quiet, unresponsive. The chest rises and falls in slow, rhythmic waves, yet everything else seems suspended in a gentle freeze. This profound stillness is no accident. It is the brain's way of protecting you during dreams, ensuring that the vivid actions of the inner world do not translate into movements in the outer one. It is a safety mechanism, woven delicately into the architecture of sleep. This state, known as REM atonia, begins when the brainstem sends inhibitory signals throughout the spinal cord, effectively silencing the motor neurons responsible for voluntary movement. The mind may be active, vivid, and imaginative during dreams, but the body remains peacefully still, untouched by the impulses that animate the inner world. This paralysis is not frightening. It is soothing, a biological embrace meant to keep you safe as your awareness wanders through landscapes created entirely within the mind. The contrast between mental activity and physical stillness is remarkable. During REM sleep, the brain becomes almost as active as it is during wakefulness. Visual regions fire intensely. Emotional centers glow with heightened sensitivity. Memory networks spark and reconnect. And yet, the muscles lie in a deep, unmoving rest, shielded from the mind's unfolding stories. This separation allows you to explore impossible motion, flying, running, drifting without disturbing the quiet sanctuary of the night. Even the autonomic nervous system adjusts to this state. Heart rate becomes irregular but gentle. Breathing slows into smooth, soft patterns. Temperature regulation shifts subtly. These changes create an internal environment optimized for dreaming. Warm, safe, steady, free from abrupt physical reactions. The body is not participating in the dream, but providing the perfect conditions for it to flourish. What makes this experience so comforting is the sense of surrender it creates. In waking life, the body is always poised to act, to respond, to move. But during dreams, this burden is lifted. You are allowed to exist without effort, without tension, without the constant readiness that defines daily life. The body becomes an anchor of calm while the mind explores freely. Now, resting deeper within this dual-state mental activity wrapped inside physical stillness, you feel a profound tranquility. You are floating within your own consciousness, unencumbered by the weight of movement or responsibility. The body rests, the mind wanders, and the night holds you gently in between. Let yourself drift further, carried by the perfect stillness that dreams require. As you drift deeper into the dream's unfolding realm, a gentle realization begins to emerge. The dream is not just a sequence of images, it is a story. A story that seems to form effortlessly, without intention, without planning, yet flowing with a strange sense of meaning. Even when the dream bends logic, even when it shifts through impossible scenes, there is something inside you that tries to follow its thread, to understand its direction, to sense the quiet narrative hidden beneath the surreal surface. This storytelling arises from the brain's natural tendency to seek patterns. During dreaming, the cortex receives bursts of internal activity from regions involved in memory, emotion, and sensory imagery. These bursts are not structured, they are fragments, sparks, impressions. Yet the brain, designed to find coherence even in chaos, weaves them into a narrative shape. It connects moments that have no logical link, giving them a sense of progression. It turns random images into scenes, scenes into sequences, and sequences into the dream's flowing storyline. Without the skeptical oversight of the prefrontal cortex, this narrative is free to grow wild and fluid. There is no internal voice questioning the transitions, no insistence on continuity, no need for the story to make sense. The dreaming mind embraces its own creations with full trust. A door may open into a mountain, a sentence may become a river, a memory may bloom into a character, and yet you follow along naturally, guided by the dream's emotional undercurrent rather than by logic. Emotion acts as the hidden director behind this internal story. If a fear lingers in the mind, the dream may shape itself around its shadow. If peace dominates, the dream stretches into slow, gentle spaces. If curiosity stirs, the story becomes exploratory, wandering through shifting landscapes. The dream is a storyteller that speaks the language of feeling rather than logic, using imagery as its vocabulary and movement as its grammar. As this narrative unfolds, you participate in it not as a passive observer, but as a drifting presence, sometimes a character, sometimes a witness, sometimes both. You respond to the dream's events with a quiet instinct, following the flow without resistance. This effortless participation allows the deeper layers of your mind to communicate with you in ways waking life cannot. Each scene is a message, each shift a whisper, each symbol a reflection of something within. Now, drifting further, the dream's story deepens. Its meaning is not something you must grasp, it is something you simply feel. The narrative wraps around you like a soft current, guiding you through the internal landscapes your mind creates in the quiet hours of night. Let yourself drift with the story, unhurried and unbound, as the dream carries you gently into its next unfolding chapter. As you drift deeper into the dreaming mind's quiet expanse, something remarkable begins happening beneath the surface. The brain is rewiring itself, not loudly, not abruptly, but with delicate, rhythmic pulses that ripple through your neural networks like soft waves across a still lake. These waves guide the rearrangement of synapses, the tiny connections that allow your thoughts, memories, and perceptions to form. In this way, dreams become silent architects of the mind, reshaping the very pathways that define who you are when you wake. During REM sleep, neurons fire in patterns that echo waking experience, yet with a freedom that allows them to form new associations. Pathways that were strengthened during the day are rehearsed and polished. Others that are no longer useful begin to fade. This nightly refinement sharpens memory, enhances creativity, and increases cognitive flexibility. A skill you practiced, a conversation you had, a concept you learned. All of these are re-encoded in ways that make them more stable, more accessible, more deeply integrated into your understanding of the world. At the same time, the brain uses dreams to explore alternative possibilities. In the fluid logic of REM sleep, neural circuits can experiment with combinations and patterns that waking consciousness would never permit. This is why dreams often feel like rehearsals for situations you've never faced, or replays of situations you wish you had handled differently. The brain is simulating outcomes, testing emotional responses, expanding your ability to adapt. It is rehearsing not the world as it is, but the world as it could be. Even networks involved in decision-making are quietly tuned during this time. While the prefrontal cortex remains subdued, its deeper layers still absorb information. They evaluate experiences indirectly through the emotional weight of dreams. When you awaken with a sense of clarity or relief, it is often because the dream has completed a subtle process of integration, resolving internal tensions, simplifying complex feelings or revealing a perspective you had not consciously considered. All the while, the dream environment reflects this internal restructuring. Scenes shift not randomly, but in harmony with the neural circuits being strengthened or softened. A corridor might stretch into unfamiliar territory as the brain navigates new associations. A door may appear where none existed, symbolizing a pathway being formed. The dream's surreal landscapes are mirrors of the brain's own evolving architecture, fluid, dynamic, always in motion. Now, drifting deeper into this silent construction, you may sense a quiet order beneath the dream's shifting surface. The mind is not wandering aimlessly, it is remodeling itself with exquisite precision. You rest within its work, weightless and unburdened, as your neural networks gradually settle into new patterns that will shape your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions when dawn arrives. Allow yourself to drift with this internal rhythm, trusting the dream's gentle craftsmanship as it carries you into the next soft layer of the night. As you drift deeper into the subtle tides of dreaming, a quiet transformation begins to unfold around the core of your identity. The sense of I, so familiar, so constant during waking life, softens like a shadow dissolving at the edge of dim light. In dreams, the self becomes fluid. You might inhabit a different body, speak with someone else's voice, or observe yourself from afar as though you were both actor and audience. This gentle distortion is not a loss of identity but an expansion of it, allowing the mind to explore versions of the self that waking consciousness keeps tightly constrained. This flexibility begins with the temporary quieting of the brain's self-referential networks, especially in the medial prefrontal cortex. During wakefulness, these networks maintain a stable sense of who you are, your history, your preferences, your memories, your roles. But in the dream state, these circuits dim, and with their dimming, the boundaries of identity loosen. Without the rigid scaffolding of the waking self, the mind becomes free to explore alternate perspectives, creating a soft and shifting theater of possibility. Meanwhile, the parietal regions that anchor your body's position in space relax, further weakening the distinction between where you end and the dream world begins. This blending allows you to move through shifting forms with ease, sometimes as a participant, sometimes as an observer, sometimes as something in between. You may float, dissolve, transform, or multiply without questioning the experience. The dream accepts all versions of you, and so do you. This fluid identity serves an important purpose. The brain uses this state to test different emotional responses, different assumptions, different ways of being. A dream may place you in a situation that challenges your waking habits or reveals an aspect of yourself you had not recognized. Sometimes the dream highlights strengths, other times it uncovers vulnerabilities. But always, the shifting sense of self allows the mind to examine its own structure from new angles, like turning a gemstone slowly under soft light. Emotion is the guide through this exploration. If fear tugs at the edges of your awareness, the dream may place you into a form that confronts that fear gently. If longing surfaces, the dream may shape a self that fulfills it. If confusion lingers, the dream may dissolve your sense of identity entirely, allowing clarity to emerge from the quiet that follows. In this way, dreams expand the boundaries of who you believe yourself to be. Now, drifting deeper, You feel your sense of self becoming even lighter, still present, but soft, fluid, open. You rest in the comforting realization that identity is not a cage, but a shape the mind can relax, adjust, or release as needed. In the quiet theater of dreams, you are free to become anything or nothing at all. And as this soft flexibility settles over your awareness, you sink further into the gentle, unfolding dark of the night. As you drift even deeper into the soft currents of the dreaming mind, time itself begins to unravel. Not abruptly, but gently, like threads loosening from a woven fabric. In dreams, minutes can stretch into what feels like hours, or entire stories can unfold in the space of a heartbeat. The familiar rhythm of waking life loses its authority. In its place arises a fluid, elastic sense of time that adapts to the dream's emotional and narrative landscape. This distortion begins with the slowing of the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for sequencing events and anchoring them in logical order. Without its strict oversight, the brain no longer organizes experiences according to a fixed timeline. Instead, moments appear and dissolve according to internal rhythms, guided more by emotion than by actual duration. A single intense feeling can stretch a scene, while a calm, drifting state can compress vast experiences into seconds. Meanwhile, the hippocampus continues its quiet work of linking memories, but in the dream state, it follows a different logic. Rather than placing events into chronological order, it weaves them according to associations, symbols, and emotional relevance. This creates a dream time that flows not in straight lines, but in spirals, loops, and gentle waves. You might relive a moment from years ago, only to step forward into an imagined future a breath later. The brain does not mark these transitions with timestamps. It allows them to unfold seamlessly. This fluidity is why dreams often feel longer than they are. The brain compensates for the absence of real sensory input by enriching internal experiences, filling them with vivid imagery, symbolic detail, and emotional depth. These layers add density to each moment, making them feel more substantial, more extended. A dream's world may be born, evolve, and dissolve within seconds, yet the richness of the experience stretches your sense of time around it like soft cloth. Emotion intensifies this effect. Fear may stretch a moment into a slow, echoing corridor. Peace may expand an instant into a drifting eternity. Curiosity may accelerate transitions, skipping between scenes with lightning fluidity. The dream's timeline is sculpted by what you feel, not by what actually occurs. It is a landscape shaped from the inside outward. And as this fluid timeline envelops you, your awareness relaxes into it without resistance. There is no need to measure, no need to understand, no need to anchor yourself to any particular sequence. You surrender to the rhythm of the dream, trusting that whatever comes next will arrive in its own time, in its own shape. Time becomes a soft tide rather than a ticking clock. Now, drifting deeper into this timeless place, you feel the last remnants of waking structure fade. You float through moments not as a traveler, but as a presence carried by an inner current. Let yourself sink into this fluid flow, where past and future lose their edges and the present stretches into a calm, unbroken field. As you drift deeper into the dream's shifting landscape, a subtle truth becomes clear: the body never fully disappears. Even in the deepest stages of sleep, faint sensations continue to rise from beneath the surface. Soft tensions in the muscles, the rhythm of your breath, the warmth beneath your skin. But instead of being interpreted as physical signals, the dreaming mind transforms these sensations into symbols, scenes, and stories. A pressure on your chest may become the feeling of climbing a mountain. A warm blanket may turn into sunlight. The faint twitch of a limb may weave itself into the act of running or floating. This transformation begins in the sensory cortex, which remains active during REM sleep, despite the absence of real-world input. Deprived of external stimuli, it turns inward, interpreting internal signals with the imaginative freedom of the dreaming mind. A gentle ache may become a character in the dream. A shift in temperature may shape the environment. Even the slow rhythm of your breath can manifest as waves, wind, or distant movement. The brain does not discard physical sensation, it repurposes it into the language of dreams. Meanwhile, the vestibular system, the part of the brain that senses balance and motion, creates some of the most surreal experiences in dreams. When its signals become distorted during sleep, you might feel weightless, as though floating above the ground, or you might experience sudden drops, flights, or shifts in gravity. These sensations are not random. They are the dream's attempt to interpret internal cues with its own symbolic grammar. The result is a world where movement feels both impossible and utterly natural. The autonomic nervous system also contributes to this quiet symphony. A quickening heartbeat may become a dream of running or anticipation. A slowed heart rate may manifest as drifting through water or floating in darkness. Even small changes in breathing can influence the dream's tone, shallow breaths creating tension, deep ones creating expansive calm. The body whispers, and the mind responds by drawing an entire world around the whisper. Emotion amplifies these physical translations. A flicker of anxiety may turn a harmless sensation into a moment of intensity. A sense of comfort may transform into a dream of warmth and safety. The dream world becomes an ever-shifting canvas on which the body's signals are painted in colors shaped by your inner state. The brain does not map the body directly, it expresses it symbolically, poetically, often beautifully. Now, drifting deeper into this interplay between body and dream, you feel a profound unity form between the physical and the imagined. They are no longer separate realms, but two currents flowing into the same quiet ocean of awareness. The body sends gentle ripples, the mind turns them into vast landscapes. And as these landscapes expand around you, you sink further into the soothing, symbolic night. As you drift deeper into the dream's gentle currents, a quiet cleansing begins to unfold within the labyrinth of your mind. Throughout the day, your brain absorbs an overwhelming amount of information, fragments of conversation, fleeting impressions, half-formed thoughts, random details that cling to awareness long after their usefulness has faded. But in the stillness of sleep, the mind sorts through this vast collection, deciding what to keep and what to gently let go. This process begins in the hippocampus, the brain's memory archivist. During REM sleep, it replays recent experiences in softened, restructured forms, evaluating their importance. Memories that matter, those tied to emotion, learning, or survival, are reinforced, sent deeper into the cortex for long-term storage. But countless others, trivial or redundant, are gradually released. They dissolve into the quiet hum of neural activity, no longer taking up space within the mind's limited capacity. This subtle release is why the morning often feels lighter than the day before. Meanwhile, the brain's glymphatic system works like a silent tide. It washes metabolic waste from neural tissue, clearing the byproducts of intense cognitive activity. Though this process is not directly part of dreaming, it unfolds alongside it, creating an environment where clarity can emerge. The mind becomes a calm pool rather than a storm of scattered impressions. In this refreshed state, dreams drift more freely, shaped by a brain that is gradually clearing the clutter of the day. The dream itself reflects this cleaning. Scenes may feel like they are dissolving, melting at the edges, shifting into simpler forms. Characters may fade or transform. Environments may collapse into mist before rebuilding into something new. These transitions are not chaotic, they are the symbolic expression of a mind letting go, a gentle erosion of mental noise. The dream remodels itself as the brain sheds unnecessary details, creating space for what is essential. Emotion also plays a role in this purification. Feelings that lingered unresolved during the day, tension, worry, disappointment, are softened in the dream's fluid logic. They lose their sharpness. They become stories instead of burdens, images instead of weights. When you awake, you may not remember the dream, yet you feel lighter, as though an invisible knot has loosened. This is the emotional residue of the brain's quiet cleaning. Now, drifting deeper into this internal tide, you may sense a soothing emptiness, not hollow, but open. The mind is clearing space for stillness, for calm, for rest. You float in the quiet aftermath of this gentle cleansing, feeling the weight of the day wash away in slow, silent waves. Let yourself sink into this clarity, into the widening quiet, as the night carries you further inward. As you drift deeper into the soft, shifting landscape of the dream, a quiet paradox becomes more pronounced. Your sense of self begins to dissolve, yet your awareness remains. You are present, but the boundaries of identity soften as though they were drawn in sand. You move through scenes without questioning how you arrived there. You inhabit forms that don't belong to you. You speak with voices that feel both familiar and foreign. And yet, through all of it, a subtle thread of consciousness remains a gentle witness floating within the ever-changing fabric of the dream. This blending of presence and dissolution begins in the medial prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for maintaining a stable sense of I. During dreams, its activity decreases significantly. The rigid definition of self that dominates waking life loosens, allowing perception to stretch into new shapes. Without this anchor, you become fluid, adaptable, capable of merging seamlessly with the unfolding narrative of the dream world. It is not that you disappear, it is that you expand. At the same time, the posterior cingulate cortex, a key node of the brain's default mode network, shifts into a gentler rhythm. This region helps integrate internal experience, providing continuity to thought and awareness. In dreams, its activity becomes softer and more diffuse, enabling the mind to transcend the usual limits of identity. This is why you can watch yourself from afar, become someone else entirely, or exist in a state where the self feels like a distant echo rather than a central figure. Emotion shapes this dissolution in subtle ways. A moment of curiosity may draw you into a form that feels strange but comfortable. A hint of longing may place you in a life you've never lived. A flicker of fear might blur your identity until you become pure sensation, drifting like a shadow through the dream. In each case, the self bends gently to the emotional tone of the dream, transforming in ways that feel natural because the structures that enforce personal consistency are resting. And yet, despite all this fluidity, consciousness never fully fades. A quiet observer remains, drifting behind the scenes, aware without controlling, sensing without resisting. This observer is the core of your dreaming awareness, the stable point around which the surreal world unfolds. It does not judge, it does not direct, it simply floats, held gently within the dream's soft current. Now, as you sink further into this expanded state of being, you feel the boundaries of the self becoming even lighter. You are not confined to a single identity, a single form, a single story. You drift like a slow, luminous presence in a world where the mind paints freely. And as this gentle dissolution deepens, you relax more completely, surrendering to the vast, peaceful landscape of the night. As you drift deeper into the dream's quiet embrace, the world around you begins to shift in ways that defy the structure of waking life. Hallways stretch into impossible lengths, rooms open into vast landscapes. A single step can carry you across great distances, while familiar places blend into one another without boundaries. Space becomes soft, pliable, fluid, less a fixed dimension, and more a gentle suggestion shaped by the mind's inner rhythms. This transformation begins in the parietal lobes, regions responsible for mapping your body in space and constructing your sense of where things are. During dreaming, their usual precision relaxes. Without external sensory input to anchor them, these networks rely on internal cues, memory, emotion, imagination to determine the shape of the dream world. Because these cues are fluid and constantly shifting, space itself becomes an ever-changing canvas. The hippocampus, responsible for spatial memory, also contributes to this fluidity. Its maps, normally grounded in real environments, blend into one another during REM sleep. A street you walked years ago might merge with a place you visited only once. A room from childhood may appear inside a building you've never seen. The brain is not trying to recreate real space. It is exploring a symbolic geography shaped from memory fragments and emotional tones. This liberation from rigid spatial rules is one of the dream's most soothing elements. In waking life, your body is confined to precise coordinates, bound by gravity, distance, and physical limitation. But in dreams, these constraints dissolve. You may float weightlessly through a room. You may pass through walls as though they were mist. You may expand or shrink, becoming as vast or as small as the dream requires. This freedom creates a deep, gentle sense of release, as though the world has become a soft fabric that moves with you rather than against you. Emotion subtly shapes the landscape. A moment of unease might narrow a corridor or darken a sky. Peace might open endless fields or lift you effortlessly into the air. Curiosity may cause structures to rearrange themselves in real time, bending around your attention. Space becomes responsive, a living mirror of the mind's inner weather. As this shifting world unfolds, your awareness adapts easily, accepting new configurations without resistance. There is no need for orientation, no need for stability. You simply drift through a world that breathes with you, reshaping itself with each passing thought. This floating sensation, this gentle disconnect from physical space, is profoundly calming, loosening the last threads of tension tied to the waking body. Now, sinking further into this fluid geography, you feel yourself becoming part of it. You are no longer moving through space, you are gliding within a world shaped by your own awareness. Let yourself drift deeper into this boundless terrain, where nothing is fixed and everything yields softly to the quiet tides of the dreaming mind. As you drift deeper into the dream's soft and expanding world, something remarkable begins to unfold. The senses, normally distinct and carefully separated in waking life, start to blend into one another. A sound may take on color, a movement may carry warmth, a memory may appear with a scent you've never encountered. In this fluid domain, the boundaries between sensory experiences dissolve, allowing the mind to weave perception into a single, seamless tapestry. This blending begins within the sensory cortices, regions of the brain that, during wakefulness, operate with strict specialization. The visual cortex interprets light. The auditory cortex decodes sound. The somatosensory cortex registers touch. But in the dream state, these divisions soften. Freed from the need to interpret real-world input, the cortices communicate more openly. Neural signals cross pathways, creating combinations that waking logic would never permit. The result is synesthetic experience, imagery that feels like sound, sound that feels like texture, movement that feels like emotion. These cross-sensory impressions give dreams their unique richness, a layered quality that makes the world feel both more vivid and more fluid than waking reality. A single moment may be filled with multiple forms of sensation, merging into an experience that feels whole rather than fragmented. This unity is profoundly soothing to the drifting mind. Emotion plays a central role in guiding this sensory fusion. In dreams, emotional centers like the amygdala and insula remain active, shaping how sensory signals are interpreted. A feeling of safety might transform a dark landscape into warm color. A hint of curiosity might give movement a shimmering quality. A memory tinged with affection might appear wrapped in soft light or gentle sound. The dream becomes an emotional synesthesia, a world where perception is textured by feeling. The brain's default mode network, more active during dreaming than during deep non-REM sleep, also supports this blending. It integrates experiences across time and sensation, creating meaning from fragments. In this relaxed state, sensory boundaries are not simply lowered, they are invited to dissolve. The dream becomes a space where perception is not bound by the limitations of the body, but by the expansiveness of awareness itself. As you drift through this unified field of sensation, you may feel your own attention softening in response. There is no need to categorize what you perceive. No need to ask whether something is seen, heard, or felt. Everything arrives as a single, gentle wave of experience. This coherence, this merging of sensory worlds, creates a deep sense of peace, as though the mind has finally been allowed to return to a more natural, unrestricted form of perception. Now, floating deeper within this soft sensory unity, you feel yourself loosening further. The dream world moves around you like a warm current sound, color, light, emotion, memory, all flowing together in a single quiet stream. Let yourself drift into that stream, where perception softens, where boundaries fade, where the night holds you in one seamless, gentle whole. As you drift deeper into the dream's tranquil expanse, you begin to sense the extraordinary creativity flowing quietly beneath the surface of the night. Dreams assemble worlds that defy physics, stories that transcend logic, and images that feel both impossible and intimately familiar. This creativity is not forced. It arises effortlessly, blooming from the relaxed architecture of the sleeping mind like wildflowers growing in untouched soil. The foundation of this creative freedom is the temporary silencing of the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for critical thinking, self-monitoring, and restraint. During wakefulness, this area filters your thoughts, ensuring they align with logic, convention, and reality. But in the dream state, its influence fades. Without its strict oversight, the mind becomes a boundless canvas where imagination roams freely, unhindered by rules or expectations. Simultaneously, associative networks throughout the cortex become more active and interconnected. Neurons that rarely communicate during the day begin to form spontaneous, novel links. A memory from childhood might combine with a place you've never been. A sound may merge with a color, a symbol with an emotion, an idea with a forgotten feeling. These unusual pairings give birth to the surreal, poetic landscapes of dreams, places where the mind experiments with combinations that waking consciousness would never dare attempt. The limbic system, alive with emotional tones, fuels this imaginative engine. Emotions, unrestrained by logic, sharpen imagery and deepen narrative texture. A quiet longing may paint an entire dream in soft blue light. A flicker of excitement may send you soaring through impossible skies. A hidden worry may take shape as a shifting labyrinth. Emotion becomes the brush, memory the pigment, imagination the hand that guides the stroke. The brain's default mode network plays a key role as well. This system, active during daydreaming and introspection, becomes highly engaged during REM sleep. It stitches together fragments of experience into narratives that feel symbolic, evocative, and deeply personal. The dream becomes a theater of inner truth, full of metaphors, impressions, and meanings that you may not fully understand, yet instinctively feel. This explosion of creativity is not only beautiful, it is healing. It allows the mind to explore possibilities beyond the rigid patterns of daily life, opening doorways to insight, flexibility, and emotional release. In this unrestricted space, you are free to imagine, to transform, to fly, to dissolve, to become anything the dream requires. The laws of reality are suspended, and all that remains is pure creative flow. Now, drifting deeper into this ocean of imagination, you feel your awareness loosening further. Thoughts become colors, emotions become landscapes, ideas become movement. You float effortlessly through this world of boundless invention, letting the dream's creativity wash gently through you as the night carries you into even deeper layers of the sleeping mind. As you drift deeper into the vast interior landscape of the dreaming mind, a gentle dissolution begins to occur, one that softens not only the edges of your identity, but the very borders between self and world. In waking life, these boundaries feel solid. You are here, and the world is out there. But in dreams, this separation melts into an intimate continuity. The scenery you move through feels like an extension of your own awareness, and your awareness feels like a quiet pulse woven into the fabric of the dream. This merging begins with the subdued activity of the brain regions responsible for self-location and bodily boundaries. When these circuits soften, the sense of occupying a fixed position in space begins to fade. You might float through a scene without feeling the weight of a body. You might shift forms, appearing in different places without movement. You might even experience the world from perspectives that are not your own. The mind, freed from the constraints of physical identity, becomes a fluid presence capable of inhabiting any point within the dream. The default mode network contributes to this expansiveness. During dreams, its activity shifts into a state that allows for broader self-referential processing, less tied to a singular identity, more open to symbolic and emotional interpretation. Because of this, you may feel simultaneously like the observer, the actor, and the landscape itself. A rushing river might feel like your own emotion flowing. A distant sky may feel like the outer border of your awareness. The dream world becomes both internal and external, a mirror and a stage. Emotion also guides this blending. A moment of peace might dissolve the dream's boundaries entirely, leaving you drifting in a field of pure sensation. A moment of curiosity might expand your perceptual reach, allowing you to glide effortlessly between perspectives. Even the dream's characters, figures that seem separate from you, are often expressions of your own thought patterns, memories, or emotions. You speak to yourself through them, even as they appear independent. This boundarylessness creates an unusual tranquility. Without the need to protect your sense of identity, the mind relaxes. Without the need to orient yourself in space, tension dissolves. You are no longer confined to a single point of view. Instead, you expand gently, quietly into the entire dream environment. It is not that you become the world. It is that the world becomes an extension of your awareness. As you drift deeper into this state, a profound calm settles over you. You feel held, supported, woven into something larger yet intimately connected. There is no division, no separation, no resistance. You float within a vast, gentle unity where the dream breathes with you, moves with you, and shapes itself around the quiet glow of your presence. Now, sinking further into this boundless union, you feel yourself dissolve more completely into the soft, endless expanse of the dreaming mind. Let yourself drift into this spaciousness, where the borders fade and where awareness becomes a gentle horizon stretching into the night. As you drift deeper into the dream's silent unfolding, you may notice something subtle yet profound. Dreams rarely speak in words. Conversations, if they appear at all, are vague, fluid, often remembered more as meaning than as language. Instead, dreams communicate through images, sensations, symbols, and movement. It is a form of expression older than speech itself, a quiet, pre-verbal language woven directly from the fabric of the mind. This shift begins in the brain's language centers. During REM sleep, regions like Broca's and Wernicke's areas become far less active than during wakefulness. The structures responsible for grammar, syntax, and verbal articulation rest, releasing the mind from the constraints of linguistic order. Without the limits of language, the mind becomes free to communicate in ways that are immediate, intuitive, and immersive. Meaning does not need to be described, it is felt. Meanwhile, visual and emotional networks overshadow verbal processing. The brain speaks through imagery that bypasses the rational filters of waking thought. A towering wave may represent a hidden fear. A warm, glowing room may embody safety or longing. A journey through shifting landscapes might express transformation. These symbols arise not because the mind is being cryptic, but because imagery is the most direct path from emotion to awareness. Symbolism becomes the dream's grammar. Objects merge with feelings. Places become metaphors. Characters represent fragments of the self or echoes of memory. The dream expresses complex experiences without needing a single word. This symbolic language allows the mind to communicate with itself at a depth that conscious thought rarely reaches. Subtle, layered, emotional, and rich with meaning. The default mode network supports this symbolic communication by integrating memory, imagination, and emotion into cohesive, though non-verbal, narratives. It constructs meaning through association rather than articulation. This is why you can understand a dream even when no one speaks, why you can feel the message of a scene without needing to decode any literal dialogue. The dream does not explain, it shows. This wordless mode of communication creates a deep sense of calm. Without language directing attention outward, awareness turns inward, drifting through sensations and impressions that require no interpretation. The mind is no longer trying to express itself through narrow channels. It expands into a broad, fluid field where meaning flows naturally. Now, sinking further into this silent language, you feel the gentle dissolution of verbal thought. Words fade into soft echoes. What remains is pure experience, imagery, emotion, movement, all woven into a quiet narrative that speaks directly to the deeper layers of your mind. Let yourself drift into this wordless world where meaning arrives like breath, slow, subtle, and suffused with the calm of the night. As you drift deeper into the quiet architecture of the night, a slow and delicate process unfolds beneath your awareness. Dreams, though fluid and surreal, are not aimless. They are the mind's nocturnal rehearsal space, an intimate workshop where emotions are softened, memories are integrated, and the foundations for tomorrow's clarity are quietly built. Each scene, each symbol, each shifting moment whispers to the brain, prepare, adjust, release, begin again. This preparation begins with the brain's limbic system, which remains highly active during REM sleep. Emotions that accumulated throughout the day, tension, excitement, uncertainty, are carefully revisited and reshaped within the dream's symbolic landscape. A difficult experience may be replayed in softened form, allowing the intensity to fade. A hope or goal may appear as a symbolic journey, strengthening motivation. Through this emotional recalibration, the brain ensures that you awaken more balanced than you were when you fell asleep. Meanwhile, neural networks involved in problem solving become subtly engaged. Without the pressure of logic or time, the mind experiments freely with possibilities. Challenges that seemed unsolvable during the day may transform into new configurations during sleep. Patterns emerge, connections form, ideas reshape themselves in the dream's flexible space. This is why insights often arise upon waking, because overnight, the mind rehearsed solutions without the weight of conscious limitation. Memory consolidation plays a central role in this nightly preparation. Important experiences are replayed, strengthened, and integrated into long-term storage, while irrelevant details quietly fade. The brain builds stable foundations of knowledge while clearing space for tomorrow's learning. This balance, reinforcing what matters, releasing what doesn't, creates a mental landscape that is more open, more spacious, more capable of absorbing the next day's experiences. Even the sense of self is subtly recalibrated through the dream's shifting identities and symbolic narratives. The mind rehearses different emotional responses, explores alternative perspectives, and adjusts its internal models of reality. By morning, you awaken with an updated sense of who you are and how you relate to the world, even if the dream itself has been forgotten. The effect is subtle but deeply restorative. Now, as you drift deeper into this quiet workshop of the mind, you may sense a gentle stability forming beneath you, an unseen structure holding your awareness as the dream world continues its delicate work. You are being prepared, soothed, balanced, shaped for the coming day. Let yourself rest in this silent construction, trusting the night to do what it has always done: rebuild the mind in the soft darkness of sleep. As you drift deeper into the gentle currents of the dreaming night, a subtle healing begins to move through your body, slow, rhythmic, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly restoring. While your awareness wanders through the landscapes of the dream, the body enters a state of deep biological repair. Muscles release accumulated tension, tissues begin to regenerate. Hormonal rhythms recalibrate themselves with the quiet precision of an ancient inner clock. Even as the mind floats in surreal imagery, the body is being rebuilt, cell by cell. This healing begins with the autonomic nervous system. During REM sleep, the sympathetic branch, the system responsible for alertness and stress, settles into a calmer rhythm, while the parasympathetic branch becomes more dominant. Heart rate softens, breathing deepens, blood vessels widen. This shift allows oxygen and nutrients to flow more freely through the body, reaching tissues that require restoration. In this state of physiological openness, healing becomes not a task, but a natural unfolding. Meanwhile, growth hormone and other restorative chemicals are released in pulses, guiding the repair of muscles, bones, and connective tissue. Minor damage accumulated through daily activity, microscopic strains, tiny tears, subtle inflammation begins to mend. The immune system also becomes more efficient during sleep, identifying and addressing disruptions with heightened accuracy. These processes occur silently, unnoticed by the drifting mind, yet they reshape the body from within. Rüyalar, bu biyolojik onarımın duygusal yansıması gibidir. The dream provides a symbolic space where the mind releases emotional strain, allowing the body to relax even more deeply. A stressful memory revisited in a softened form may reduce the physiological tension associated with it. A peaceful dream may lower cortisol levels. A shift in emotional tone may regulate heart rhythm. The dream becomes an emotional balm that supports the body's physical repair. The brain itself undergoes its own cleansing during this time. Neural waste products are cleared through the glymphatic system, a process most active during sleep. As this quiet tide washes through the neural pathways, clarity is restored, inflammation is reduced, and cognitive function is renewed. The dream, floating on top of these biological processes, serves as the mind's symbolic reflection of this cleansing scene's dissolving, shifting, reforming as the brain resets itself. Now, as you sink even deeper into this restorative darkness, you may feel the subtle glow of renewal moving through you, not as a sensation, but as a gentle knowing. The night is healing you. Your body is reorganizing itself toward balance. Your mind is releasing what it no longer needs. You are drifting in a state designed by nature for recovery, transformation, and quiet repair. Let yourself rest fully within this peaceful reconstruction as the dream carries you onward toward even deeper layers of night. As you drift deeper into the dream's unfolding world, you may sense a curious truth about this internal universe. Most of it will vanish the moment you wake. Entire landscapes, conversations, sensations so vivid and real during the night dissolve into silence the second your eyes open. This forgetting is not a failure of memory, but a delicate and intentional mechanism. The mind chooses what to keep and what to let go, not out of neglect, but out of necessity. This selective forgetting begins with the low activity of the hippocampus during REM sleep. While this region plays a crucial role in storing new memories during wakefulness, its reduced engagement during dreaming means that much of the dream's content never enters long-term storage. The brain allows you to experience the dream fully, but it withholds the encoding process, preventing an overwhelming influx of surreal and emotionally charged imagery from crowding your waking consciousness. Meanwhile, the neurotransmitter, norepinephrine, essential for memory consolidation, is present at extremely low levels during REM sleep. In waking life, it supports attention and the formation of stable memories. In dreams, however, its absence creates a soft haze around experience, allowing events to flow without being anchored. The dream becomes a stream of consciousness that moves freely, but leaves only faint traces behind impressions rather than records. This forgetting serves a purpose. It maintains psychological clarity. If every dream were remembered in full detail, waking life would become cluttered with symbolic narratives, emotional simulations, and shifting identities. By allowing only fragments to surface an image, a feeling, a moment, the brain protects the stability of the waking self. The dream does its work in the background, quietly reshaping emotion and memory without insisting on being remembered. Yet some dreams are remembered, and this too has meaning. A dream may linger if it aligns with strong emotion or unresolved tension. It may stay if it contains something the mind wants you to notice, an insight, a warning, a symbolic echo of an inner truth. When the hippocampus briefly re-engages near the edge of consciousness, fragments are captured, a sentence, a face, a scene that refuses to fade. These remembered pieces become bridges between the dream world and waking awareness. And still, most dreams dissolve gently, like mist in morning light. Their purpose is fulfilled not through recollection, but through experience. They shift the mind, balance emotion, rewire connections, prepare you for tomorrow, all without leaving a heavy trace behind. This is the elegance of the dream, powerful in its impact, light in its footprint. Now, sinking deeper into the quiet understanding of this selective forgetting, you feel yourself letting go as well. There is no need to grasp, no need to hold. The night knows what to keep and what to release. You drift in this gentle wisdom, carried softly toward the final layers of the dreaming mind. As you drift deeper into the final layers of the night, The dream begins to soften around you. Scenes lose their structure, colors fade into gentle tones. The boundaries of the world dissolve like sand carried away by a quiet tide. In this twilight space between dreaming and deep rest, consciousness becomes light, so light that it seems to float within its own stillness. You are no longer inside the dream, you are resting in the soft glow beneath it. Here, the mind is neither shaping worlds nor interpreting them. It is simply being. Neural activity settles into slow, synchronized waves that ripple calmly across the cortex, like moonlit water expanding through a silent lake. Emotion is no longer sculpting landscapes. Identity is no longer shifting through forms. Instead, awareness settles into a state of pure presence, vast, open, and deeply peaceful. This is the dream's final offering, a moment of complete surrender. The body, too, reaches its most restorative point. Heartbeat slows into a gentle rhythm. Muscles release their last traces of tension. The breath becomes shallow, soft, almost weightless. The autonomic nervous system stabilizes into a state of profound equilibrium, optimizing every internal process for healing and renewal. In this stillness, mind and body drift into perfect alignment, each supporting the other in a delicate, wordless harmony. The default mode network, the quiet architect of your inner world, now dims its activity, preparing for the transition back to wakefulness. Memories consolidate one final time, emotional circuits settle. Neural pathways fall into a coherent pattern that will form the baseline for tomorrow's thoughts. The mind is both finishing the work of the night and preparing the canvas of the day. What remains is a gentle afterglow, a soft pulse of readiness hidden beneath the calm. As the last echoes of the dream fade, a subtle awareness begins to rise, not abrupt, not bright, but like the hint of dawn touching the horizon. You sense yourself returning, re-inhabiting the quiet center of your being, yet something feels changed. Lighter, softer, more open. The night has done its work, reshaping your mind in ways you may never fully understand, but will certainly feel. You awaken not as the person who fell asleep, but as someone gently renewed. Now, lingering in this final moment of darkness before morning, you rest in the quiet harmony created by the dream. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to resist. Just a slow, peaceful ascent toward the surface of awareness. Let yourself drift there calm, restored, carried by the silent wisdom of the night. As you drift beyond the final echoes of the dream, a deeper silence unfolds, a silence untouched by imagery, memory, or thought. It is the quietest layer of the night, where the mind no longer creates or interprets, but simply rests in a state of pure, effortless stillness. Here, awareness becomes a soft glow, suspended in the dark, free from the weight of identity or experience. This is not dreaming and not waking. It is the serene space beneath both. In this depth, brain activity enters slow wave patterns, waves that spread across the cortex like vast, gentle tides. Each wave brings release of tension, of effort, of the subtle pressures that accumulate in waking life. Neurons fire with synchronized grace, conserving energy, restoring balance, and allowing the mind to sink into the most restorative state it can achieve. There is nothing to follow, nothing to understand. The brain is at peace, and so are you. The body mirrors this tranquility. Muscles soften into the surface beneath you. Blood vessels dilate, moving warmth through your limbs. Breath becomes so calm, so slow, that it feels almost like a whisper. The heart rests in a rhythm older than thought, older than memory, a rhythm guided by the deep intelligence of the body itself. In this state, healing becomes effortless. Recovery happens not through striving, but through this profound surrender. As you continue to sink, time loses all structure. Minutes, hours, the entire night, everything blends into a single, continuous drift. The mind is suspended in a state where nothing is demanded and everything is allowed. This is the purest form of rest, the foundation upon which all dreaming, all thinking, all future clarity is built. You are floating within the quiet engine of renewal. Gradually, awareness becomes even softer, less like a presence, more like a faint, warm current. There is no urgency to rise, no pull from the world outside. You rest within a darkness that is gentle, protective, almost luminous in its stillness. Here, the boundaries between mind, body, and night dissolve completely. You are held by the quiet, embraced by it, absorbed into it. In this final layer of sleep sanctuary, you are not drifting anymore. You are simply resting, fully, deeply, peacefully. The night has taken over all effort. The mind has surrendered all weight. And you remain here, suspended in restorative silence until morning comes softly to meet you. As you drift beyond dreams, beyond imagery, beyond even the soft glow of inner awareness, the night opens into a deeper darkness, a darkness so gentle, so complete, that it holds you like warm water surrounding a sinking ember. In this realm, the mind no longer wanders, it no longer constructs or dissolves. It simply rests, as if wrapped in layers of quiet that go on forever. Thoughts fall away, sensation becomes faint, the world shrinks into a single, peaceful, still point. Here, brain activity descends into its slowest, most synchronized waves, vast, sweeping patterns that move like deep ocean currents across the surface of your mind. These waves bind billions of neurons into a unified pulse, reducing energy use and guiding every system toward profound restoration. It is as if the mind is being rocked by the night itself, lulled into a state where repair is effortless and renewal is inevitable. The body follows this descent with complete trust. Muscles soften into a near weightless state, joints loosen, the spine releases its tension, breathing becomes shallow but steady, a quiet rhythm that rises and falls like the tide under starlight. Metabolism slows, blood pressure stabilizes, the entire organism slips into a mode of preservation and healing, a state evolution crafted over millions of years to keep you alive, balanced, and whole. In this absolute quiet, even emotion fades into neutrality. No joy, no fear, no longing, only stillness. The amygdala rests. The emotional networks that color waking life dim their signals, allowing the mind to drift in an uncolored, unshaped, undirected calm. It is the closest the brain comes to complete peace, a sanctuary where nothing pulls, nothing pushes, nothing demands. You rest not just from the world, but from yourself. Time stretches out in this darkness, smooth and unbroken. There is no sense of before or after, only this endless, velvety present. The mind becomes a quiet horizon, the body becomes a steady anchor, and you drift in a space where being and resting are the same thing. This is sleep's deepest gift, a place where consciousness falls away so that life itself can gather strength again. Now, resting in this deepest chamber of the night, you do not need to move toward waking or dreaming. You simply remain supported, restored, completely enveloped in silence. The darkness is not empty, it is full of healing, and you float in it effortlessly, held by the quiet wisdom of sleep. As you drift into the final depth of the night, all inner movement begins to fade. Thoughts no longer rise, sensations no longer ripple. Even the faint glow of awareness softens until it becomes a single, quiet pulse, steady, distant, and peacefully dim. This is the threshold where consciousness lets go of itself, where the mind no longer watches or wanders, but simply rests in the vast stillness beneath all experience. In this final descent, brain activity becomes a soft hum, subtle, coordinated, and deeply conserving. The neurons fire slowly, rhythmically, like distant stars blinking behind a heavy veil of darkness. Every wave is a balm, every pulse is a restoration. The brain is no longer shaping dreams or emotions, it is reorganizing life at its most fundamental level, tending to the quiet machinery that sustains you. You are drifting not through thoughts, but through pure biological harmony. The body has entered its deepest state of surrender. Muscles sink into gravity without resistance. The breath becomes barely noticeable, a serene rise and fall that feels as natural as drifting in warm water. Heart rate reaches its most tranquil rhythm, conserving energy, guiding blood through the body with unhurried grace. In this stillness, healing is no longer something that happens, it is something that is. Emotion dissolves entirely here. The amygdala rests. The networks that create fear, joy, longing, and memory fall silent. What remains is a kind of peaceful neutrality, the original state of the mind before thought, before identity, before mourning. The psyche floats in a space untouched by stories or symbols, a quiet sanctuary where the weight of living is lifted for a few sacred hours. Time, too, disappears. Minutes stretch into a smooth continuum. The distinction between beginning and end dissolves. Only presence remains soft, limitless, and unbroken. You drift in a darkness that is not empty but full of rest, full of quiet, full of the ancient rhythms your body has known since before you were born. This is the deepest night, the place where you return to yourself by leaving yourself behind. And now, as the night holds you in its final embrace, nothing more is required of you. No movement, no thought, no effort. You are enveloped in pure restoration, suspended in the stillness that prepares the mind and body for the gentleness of morning. Here, at the quietest point of sleep, you become part of the night itself, calm, silent, and whole.